Hello, everyone, and welcome to Backchat. Welcome to Yogaberry, your Yoga for Scoliosis community. If you are completely new to this channel, if you are completely new to me, my name is Christine Jaureguiberry. I'm a yoga teacher. I specialize in teaching yoga to those that have scoliosis. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. If you are here live, then you can use the chat box. You can talk to me. You can ask me any questions. If you're watching this afterwards on the replay, feel free, obviously, as well to use the comment box, right? Ask me if you've got anything you want to know, or if there's anything, maybe any future suggestions of topics, of guests that you would like to see on the show. That would be great. Now, we had a little summer break. Those of you who are regulars, and I can see Laura is here. She's saying hello. Thank you so much, Laura. And yeah, I'm just bringing up her comment. Laura is from Buenos Aires. She's one of my regulars at the moment. She says, lovely first class after vacations. Thank you so much, Laura. Yes, so those of you who might not know, I do teach a regular Wednesday afternoon for me class for yoga for scoliosis online via Zoom. So all that you need is some sort of device that can cope with Zoom. And yeah, you can practice with me. You can either just drop in, so just pay for a drop-in session, or I've got a membership as well, where you get those classes for free. Good, lovely. Someone is saying hello. This looks cool. Okay, no pressure then, right? What are we talking about today? So yes, it took me a little bit of time to kind of get back, but I'm really, really happy to come back here after my holiday. We had a little bit of time in Europe, in Germany, where my family is from, and then in France as well, to recharge. And I think this is really, really important for anyone out there, right? Sometimes you need a little bit of a break from all the busyness, from all the things, and then you can give even more and help people even more. At least that's how I see it. And really, this community is there to share what I know, but not only what I know, but also I bring people on this show who know a lot more things than I do about scoliosis. And yeah, we're all here to learn from each other and to share. So that's really what this is about. Nobody has all the answers, I'm afraid. But yes, we're kind of unraveling some of these things, obviously, here in this back chat, and yeah, trying to make it a little bit more clear. So if you are just joining me, then feel free to come and say hello in the chat box. Just say where you're from, and you might have a specific question. Obviously, what we're talking about today is the question: can yoga actually make our scoliosis worse? So Adventurous Dan is saying hello. Hi, let me know where you're from, where you're tuning in from. So this question was actually inspired by someone who posted in my Facebook group. And those of you who haven't joined yet, make sure that you do. It's called Yoga for Scoliosis Community if you are using Facebook. Yeah, I know the younger generation doesn't, in which case you might want to follow me on Instagram, where I also share a lot of content. But this Facebook group is great, as you will get lots of different perspectives and lots of different people of all different ages, right? Let's face it, scoliosis doesn't discriminate. It's all different types of ages. It's different types of people. It discriminates a little bit because it tends to be more women than men that suffer from scoliosis. But what is obviously what we're looking to do is to share, and maybe how maybe some of those answers. And if you ask your question, you know, a lot of times I will ask you how old you are, right? Because that might affect my answer as well. So Adventurous Dan is from Pennsylvania. Lovely. So I'm guessing it's still morning for you right now, I'm assuming. So it's 4 p.m. here in the UK. So yeah, it might be. Is it Eastern time? I'm not quite sure. Good. Anne-Marie is here from New York. Lovely. Thank you so much for tuning in. So this is what I'm talking about today. I'm going to be talking about this question of, basically, very often we talk about, can yoga help with scoliosis? To which my answer would be yes, it can, absolutely. But does this mean that yoga can also make my scoliosis worse? Which would kind of be the logical thing to say, right? If you can make it better, you can probably also make it worse. So we're going to unpack that a little bit today, and I will read you as well the full question. But I think before we go into detail for that, I think we really have to think about what we're talking about when we're asking ourselves, is it going to make my scoliosis worse, right? What does that actually mean? Do you mean you will have more pain? Do you mean that your cob angle might increase? Do you mean that it might look worse? Because I think all of these things, they're not related necessarily. So a bigger cob angle, and we know this from research, a bigger cob angle does not mean that there's definitely more pain. It's not directly correlated at all. About your self-image, again, that doesn't have a direct correlation. It doesn't have anything to do with maybe how you feel in your body. What does it actually mean to you to make your scoliosis worse? So that's maybe some of the things to consider, and maybe some of those things to rethink. Because again, I always stress this, just because your x-ray is worse doesn't mean that, again, you have more pain. It doesn't mean that you are worse off as a person, that that you're going to be unhappy. It doesn't mean any of these things. Good. Lovely. Okay, so we've got someone saying here, Mama Pia. Hi, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, being treated by a chiropractor and then recently returned to my yoga classes. Feeling worse, having difficulty standing without pain again. Good. So I would like to know if you're relating this back to yoga. This is kind of, I think this is really what we're talking about here today. Can yoga actually make your scoliosis worse, right? So this would be kind of my immediate question. Do you think that this is related to the yoga practice? And this is one of the other things, obviously, again, that I want to, when we're unpacking this question, what does it mean to make it worse? Also, what do we mean by yoga practice, right? That also doesn't mean the same thing to one person and the next. For some people, yoga is very much about meditation. It's about, a way of living that might not actually mean exercise or anything physical. I'm assuming that if most people who are talking about a yoga class, that they are talking about some sort of movement. Again, one yoga class is not the same from the next class. Unlike Pilates, which is much more kind of regulated, there's a bit more, I guess, similarities in the classes. For yoga, there's a huge variety of classes, and you can go to some, really, really crazy ones and very out there esoteric classes. You can go to others which are very much like a full-on fitness boot camp class. So there is a huge amount of variety there. So that you're feeling worse, is that the fault of yoga? And is that the fault of the movements that you're making? Is that the fault of the teacher who's maybe giving you the wrong things to do? So these are some of the things that we want to consider. And I know that you're looking for answer at the moment. I'm just asking you more questions, right? But I think it's important to not to simplify this, because it is quite a complicated topic, and we need to kind of be a little bit open-minded and take some responsibility there as well. Okay, Philippa is saying, sometimes I feel my sciatica gets irritated, or the SI joints. So I'm sorry to say this. This is kind of, it's a very common thing for people who are very flexible. So I'm wondering if you are quite flexible, and for people who have got quite a strong, vigorous yoga practice, right? And I'm talking about full on, like, full on reverse triangle poses, quite advanced back bends, things like that. I'm not saying that they are the fault of and they might be the cause of what you're doing. But there seems to be some correlation there. So usually it's people who are very flexible, who are lacking stability in that area, in that SI joint area, that get problems. So my suggestion would be for you, Philippa, maybe to investigate a little bit more, and maybe doing less of the poses that could be kind of could be making that sort of area a little bit more flexible or unstable. Meaning, probably some of the twisting ones, they can sometimes be problematic, especially kind of, I'm talking triangle pose and reverse triangle pose. Those ones, anything asymmetric, anything that is a twist with a back bend, again, can sometimes a little bit be a little bit problematic. Obviously, I don't know you, Philippa, and I would need a lot more information, obviously, to give you more feedback on that. But this might be an example of where some of the yoga poses that we're practicing, or the way that we're practicing, could make some symptoms of scoliosis worse, right? So I'm differentiating already the answer a little bit. But let me read you Leah's full question. And I really hope that you're watching this, Leah, as well, because thank you so much, first of all, because I think it's a brilliant question. It was posted in the Facebook group, which is free. Everyone can join that, Yoga for Scoliosis Community by Jaureguiberry. So join us in there if you would like, if you haven't yet. So Leah is saying, I'm looking to sign my 13-year-old up for yoga. I feel nervous about making sure the instructor is giving proper direction, as I feel worried that their scoliosis could get worse if not properly done. Should I worry about this, or is any yoga good for them and I shouldn't worry so much? So first of all, amazing, Leah. You are doing research. You're doing all the things for your child. They're going through the whole family is probably going through quite a tough time, being recently diagnosed. There's lots of things you all of a sudden have to consider. Your child, at the end of the day, has to adjust some things. And I could see from some of the comments there and the way that you answered, Leah, that your 13-year-old, I'm not sure if it's a boy or a girl, that they are in a brace as well. So that, again, is another big adjustment. So well done, you, for being proactive and looking for all these answers. And you're doing an amazing job. So that's, first of all, I do want to say that, because I think that it's important. Second of all, should you worry about this? Well, of course, your feelings are absolutely justified. I'm a mum. I would be worried, right? So allow yourself to be worried. Now, if this is justified, again, this is kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit more. So you're basically worried that your 13-year-old is going to a yoga class and is going to do something that will then make the scoliosis worse. So this is how I understand the question. So in order to answer this, I would ask you, first of all, what is the reason that you signed them up for a yoga class, right? And 13 years old, it might be, I'm just assuming here, this might be an after-school club situation. Maybe it's a group class with other children where they might be having fun together. They might be enjoying some time, kind of exploring different movements, laughing. You know, in kids yoga, there's a lot of games. There's a lot of kind of fun things that they can do. They might be doing some relaxation, some guided kind of dream journeys, you know, fun things like that. They might be doing some breathing exercises, which can be really useful. So I would ask a lot more questions, right? Why have you signed them up for yoga? And what is this class all about? So again, if I'm picturing a fun children's class, I'm seeing a lot of benefits, right? I'm seeing a lot of, like, setting aside the movement for now. I'm just thinking about all the things that they're going to experience. They're going to have fun. They're going to laugh. They're going to learn how to relax. How important is that? Amazing. If you're 13 years old and you learn this, you're already ahead of most adults, really. If you can learn about how to breathe properly, if you can learn about how breathing makes you feel, how this can relax you, amazing. All fantastic benefits. You're also learning about how your body works, how different movements make you feel in terms of energy, in terms of maybe, you know, how the body exactly works, body awareness. Fantastic. All amazing things. These are the benefits, right? So if, again, I don't know too much about this, and it might be a completely different situation, but if these are the benefits, I would say, wow, that's amazing, right? What are the risks on the other hand? So benefits versus risks. Your child, I think the Cobb angle is about 20 something degrees for a 13-year-old. Being in a brace, so obviously there is some treatment required. So it's not just it is a mild scoliosis, but it's kind of heading towards moderate. On the other hand, they are in a brace, right? I don't know how many hours a day, but it's under control, right? They are in a brace for however many hours a day. How much time are they spending in this yoga class? Is it once a week? Then I would really think about, you've got this once a week situation versus 24 hours times 7, where they might be doing other things. Okay, my maths wasn't great. -1, obviously. So it's that 1 hour a week versus all the other time, right? Where they are either in a brace or think about what else they're doing. Now, if they're sitting at their desk in kind of this sort of situation, which they won't be because they're in a brace, but I'm just giving it as an example, I would be much more worried about this as a mom than about that 1 hour yoga class, right? So 1 hour of yoga a week is not going to make their scoliosis worse. I'm just going to put it out there. If you disagree with me, feel free to send me an email. Obviously, I appreciate other opinions as well, but I don't believe that a little bit of movement, fun, playful movement in a kids yoga class for 1 hour a week is going to make scoliosis worse, right? If they're doing it every single day, and if they're doing the same thing every single day, then that's another situation, of course. So, yeah, you know, we have to kind of put this in perspective, right? Movement in general, and there have been statistics, there have been studies that show that any movement is still better than no movement, right? So enjoyment, movement, it's part of being a child, and it's very important. If they are in a brace, they are already kind of restricted and in there. So I would not take that away from them. Okay, sorry, that was kind of a long monologue. Let's go back to my chat. Okay, so Laura is asking, is it preferable to practice half an hour a day? That as opposed to what? As opposed to 1 hour a week? Is that maybe what you're asking? So again, you know, we have to think about who we're talking about. I was talking here about Leah's child, who's 13, who might just be doing this for fun, and the mom is worried that it will make the scoliosis worse, in which case I would say, if I'm assuming this correctly, it's a kids yoga class and it's 1 hour a week or something like that, I wouldn't worry about it. If you're kind of thinking about as an adult and to make yourself better, to advance in your yoga practice, whatever that means to you, then I do think practicing every day is better. Yes. And then if we do practice every day, then we do obviously have to be a little bit more mindful about what we practice, right? And how we practice. And in that case, I would agree with some of the comments on Leah's post where people are saying the wrong type of yoga could be I did not like the wording of detrimental, where it maybe could cause more problems than benefits. Again, weighing up the risks and the benefits. So again, in that case, if it is kind of a daily situation and to kind of maybe practicing alongside the Schroth exercises, if that's what they're doing, or you know, any type of kind of scoliosis treatment, then I would obviously seek out a teacher who knows about scoliosis, right? And somebody who understands the rotation and understands what's going on, and maybe what types of movements, not that you can't do them, but maybe don't do them all the time. And I think with children especially, it's the kids are very clever, first of all, much more than we give them credit for. And if something is hurting, they will not do it, right? They will refuse to do it. So that's the good thing. They're very, very unlikely to injure themselves, first of all, in a yoga class, right? It's very, very unlikely. Not that it doesn't happen, but still, it is very unlikely. In terms of making the scoliosis worse, again, I feel there's other things that are going to be making it worse before that, and that's going to be being in that curve pattern. So we all, with scoliosis, we have a pattern that our spine takes us into. It's rotated, it's curved. If we're tired, we are sinking into that pattern. If you have a brace, you can't. But obviously, if you don't have a brace, then yes, you know, there'll be things that could potentially make it worse, because then the muscles are pulling even more with gravity, being tired, being stressed. Yes, that could make it worse. And as somebody pointed out as well, if they're still growing, especially, that is more likely to happen. However, it's called idiopathic scoliosis. So we don't know exactly where it's coming from and what exactly the cause of this scoliosis is, right? And there is not enough data to show why and how it progresses, right? Some suggest it's over a certain Cobb angle that it progresses. Could you have done something to prevent it? These are the sort of things we don't know, right? We don't know these things. It's all great, kind of to hindsight is great, and thinking, oh, if I had known this 10 years ago, I would have done this and this. We don't know if that would have made a difference. Okay, so Anna is saying, let's go, take it back to the chat here. Anna is saying, hi, when I try to do basic forward bends, it is difficult for me, even puppy pose and especially downward dog. I don't know what that's all about. I just try those every now and then. Okay, so basic forward bend. So I'm assuming you've got scoliosis. I don't know if you've got a fused spine, or if you have if you haven't had any surgery. So that would be interesting to know. Also, what is it? So why would you like to forward bend? Is it because you want to please your teacher, do something that everyone else does? So again, I would ask myself why you're doing it. And maybe it's because you have tight legs, right? And you found some of these stretches are good for your hamstrings, right? And that might be okay, great. Then that's a great reason to practice some forward bending. In terms of scoliosis, not fused, yes, scoliosis. Okay, lovely. In terms of your scoliosis, again, I don't know how big the scoliosis is. If it's relatively mild, you do not, and it doesn't progress, you do not have to worry so much about it. If it's, however, moderate to severe and it is a progressive scoliosis, then we need to look at some of these forward bends, right? And we need to make sure that you're doing them correctly, that you're not causing more kind of instability, that that you're not going into your pattern even more in your forward bend. Because in a forward bend, and I'm talking about flexing the spine, you are going into the maximum amount of rotation. If you can do a forward bend from your hips with a straight spine, with a long spine, then that's a different situation. Okay, then again, your spine is in the best possible position, and you can stretch your hamstrings, right? So that's great. So that's kind of what I have to say about forward bend. So I wouldn't worry about if it's being difficult. I would say great. You've got something that you can maybe work on then, and maybe there's some muscle tension that is holding you back. But also ask yourself why you're doing it, right? So there might not be kind of a justified reason to be able to forward bend. What you do want to do is be able to pick something up from the floor, of course, and tie your shoes. So in that sense, it is probably useful to do some of those movements. Okay, so let me know if there are any questions about this. I'm going back to Leah's question here. So I'm looking to sign my 13-year-old up for yoga. If you're nervous about making sure the instructor is giving proper direction, though, as I feel worried that their scoliosis could get worse if not done properly. So I've talked a little bit about the kind of amount versus, what else they're doing. Again, being a brace, being good in that sense. Let's talk about the instructor, right? Because we're obviously giving the instructor a lot of power here by saying what they are telling the child to do is going to make the scoliosis worse, right? Which is a little bit problematic. So yes, it's useful as an instructor to know about scoliosis, and especially if it's a severe one and if it's progressive. So you might want to point them in, if you are worried about this, ask them questions, right? What is your experience working with children that have scoliosis? Or, if you're an adult, same thing. What's your experience? Have you had anyone before who had maybe spinal fusion, not just scoliosis? So ask them some questions, and they are allowed to say, look, a yoga teacher, there's so many conditions that they are expected to know about, right? There's a lot of them covered in teacher trainings, but by far not all of them. Scoliosis is not a big subject of a teacher training. So chances are that they don't know that much about it, in which case it's kind of you to maybe do some research about it and tell them. Now, I do offer a workshop for yoga teachers, so you can point them in my direction. The next one is happening on the 9th and 16th of October. So for fitness instructors, yoga teachers, anyone who kind of works with movement and who wants to learn more, send them my way, and I will tell them about it, and I will tell them, what might be the things that we might want to look out for. Again, in children's yoga, it's highly unlikely that there are going to be they want to keep all the children safe. There's not going to be any extreme sort of things that they're going to do. They're going to be focusing more on having fun and moving. With adults, that's a different situation, right? An adult yoga class, there can be quite extreme yoga poses. And then it's a little bit of, yes, there is responsibility here with the instructor of, what can they do to make sure people are safe. But they cannot control everything. They cannot control how you take in that information. They cannot control how far, they cannot feel what you're feeling, right? So you do need to take some responsibility and make sure that you're not going past what your body is telling you, overriding what your body is telling you. Again, children are great at this, adults, not so much. Right? We want to please the teacher. We want to do like everyone else. So sometimes we just kind of override what our bodies are telling us. And that is kind of one of the difficulties. Okay. Lovely. Gabby is telling. Oh no, she is asking. What moves would help me with left lumbar 30 degrees and 18 thoracic and a recent disc bulge in L4, L5 discovered? I am 47 and no surgeries. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you for giving us your age as well, which, I would have asked about. You giving us the Cobb angle. Great. There's still a lot of things, obviously, to be able to give you very specific advice. I, would, of course, need to know a little bit more. So in my private sessions, I go through a long kind of assessment process, of course. But just from looking at this, where I would start would be with the disc bulge, but only if you're still experiencing pain. So that's the place where I usually start, where is any symptoms, what's happening in that situation. So disc bulge, I normally start with some like gentle pelvic tilts, just to see how that area is moving, tilting forwards and backwards, side to side, just kind of seeing if that's all good. Again, a bridge pose is great. Generally, I think that's a very useful pose for for lumbar scoliosis as well, because we can really notice sometimes how one side kind of works differently compared to the other. Anything, so again, disc bulge, I'm thinking, compression, there's compression. We want to elongate, we want to lengthen. Also what we need with scoliosis. So there are the sort of poses like extended puppy pose, downward dog, those things have been mentioned before. If done correctly, then they can be very helpful. However, there are, again, if you're doing this and actually your back is rounding while you're doing your downward dog, then that's not so helpful, right? Whose fault is this? Of course, is this yoga's fault? Is this downward dog's fault? Is it the yoga teacher's fault, or is it the student's fault? Nobody's really, in my opinion. But we all have to take the responsibility of, that we can, and there are things we can control, and there are things that we cannot control. Does that help you, Gabby? I'm hoping that it does. Okay, Anna is asking, I feel legs supported on the wall is much relaxing for my legs. Thanks, Doc. Don't call me Doc. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I am a yoga teacher, right? So let's just make this clear. I am trying to make this clear, obviously, for everyone. Scoliosis is kind of apart from that, it's in my body. I do have a very personal interest in it. I've been researching this for years. I've been talking to experts for years, and I share what I know. But I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. But coming back to legs on the wall, I agree. I think that's a lovely, relaxing pose, and relaxation is very important. And working with children as well as adults in this kind of in these times, pandemic, all the news of wars and all the information that we get, social media all the time, unlimited amount of things to watch, content. There's no stopping. There's not enough break. There's not enough nothing. And I think that's one of the most important things. And I do have other podcasts about this, about pain, and very often it's stress related, right? It's about stress much more, and all the other things that we do, rather than the shape of our spines. So I'm really hoping, Leah, that this is obviously quite this is a 40-minute answer to your question. I'm hoping that I've covered it. Again, you feel free to message me, Leah, and tell me, if you want to ask my opinion and tell me more about the yoga class, and I tell you, what I think about it, what type of yoga, what do they do, and all of that, then I'm happy to answer that. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching. For all of you who are participating in the chat, it always makes it much more fun. I do this every week, as you know, so you bring your questions. You can ask me anything here. I won't always have the answer, but I will try. So 4 p.m. UK time. There is the replay that you can watch afterwards. You can also listen this on your podcast app. If you prefer that, then you can have that in the background, right? If you're driving or doing cooking or doing something else, then that might be more convenient. So make sure to subscribe to my channel on the podcast, on YouTube. That's how you can support me, which would be amazing. Obviously, follow me on Instagram, which is yogaberry.scoliosis. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, everyone.